Hey there, how you doing today? It's Stephen here, back with another video. The day after Manchester City's disappointing 1-1 draw against Chelsea. It's very tempting to say lost there, isn't it? Because the internet would have you believe that City lost the game yesterday. We didn't. We actually only drew the game. It wasn't a loss, even though for some of you it may feel like we dropped 3 points instead of just the 2. Of course, there's loads to talk about from this game. These are just my opinions. This is just 5 things that I took from it. Of course, if you want to chip in with the 5 things that you took from the game down below, please do enlighten me. I'll be definitely interested in reading your thoughts on yesterday's game. It's going to be interesting, this video. I think I'm going to rub up some people immediately the wrong way with the first thing I'm going to talk about, and you'll probably find some things to agree with on the other things that I talk about. But I've been, festering on this over the past, best part of 24 hours, and I've got my takes and my opinions. Immediately, I would like to say, please help support this video. Give the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new. It does help support me more than you realise. Give the video a big old like. I'm going to start. I'll get onto the moaning stuff a little bit later, but I'm going to start initially with something that I think needs to be said. Perspective. Can we just get a bit of perspective here? Can we? Yesterday was disappointing. I'm not going to deny that. It was disappointing. But I'm looking online and I'm seeing people act like we're actually truly naff and we're truly terrible. Pep's a fraud. Every player is awful. And now we've blown the title. Can we just get a bit of perspective here? We are literally 5 trophies. We've literally had 5 trophies in the past 12 months. We are world champions. We won about 10 games in a row. We're unbeaten in 15. And if we win our game in hand against Brentford, we go 1 point behind Liverpool. We're in a very good position. We're currently favourites, and I don't decide this, the bookmakers do, to win a treble again. Look, I'm not saying we're going to do that, but perspective is needed. We are not currently floundering. Life isn't currently terrible, and our team isn't suddenly terrible overnight either. That's a matter of fact. And before people lose their minds a little bit, I would implore you just to think exactly where we are and why yesterday happened. And I think it happened for many reasons, in terms of personnel not available, Guardiola trying to get away with certain plays, admittedly. But I do think yesterday would probably be different. If Bernardo hadn't had a knock, Stones could play 2-3 times in a week, and if Kovacic was available. It's just what it is. Oh, maybe if Haaland took his chances. Because Haaland, and I love him, he's had a tough week. Personal reasons as well off the pitch. He lost someone very close to him, his grandma. And he also then had a bad week on the pitch as well, missing loads of chances. The game could have been very different yesterday for a myriad of reasons, but I don't really think a 1-1 draw against Chelsea is a true disaster. I don't think it is. You can act like it is, but for me it isn't. It's disappointing, yes, but Chelsea aren't as bad as they've been all season. They have a lot of quality there. Sterling, Cole Palmer that we know, of course, Enzo and Caicedo. Gusto's a good player. They've got good players. They're young still, a lot of them, but they are a decent side with quality that rose to the occasion with a good manager in Pochettino. So I think this idea that we have to act like we've just lost the Champions League final every time we drop points is just a little bit childish. That's all I'd say. Remember who we are, what we've done, and how every single fan in every team in the world would swap what we've had for them. They would swap it. They would swap anything we've got for their team. Always. So we're the most lucky fans in the world. Remember that. Which leads me on to the next point about the Alvarez experiment. I understand the frustration here. Why do I think Pep played Alvarez yesterday? I think Pep actually is more aware of the Alvarez issues than we let on. I think he actually is. I think Alvarez has been playing there as a sort of quasi De Bruyne replacement for the past few months. I think the reason Alvarez has been playing so much in midfield is simply because Guardiola felt that Alvarez offered not the same output, but a similar approach in terms of assists and goals. And for a few months at the start of the season, if you remember rightly, it was working quite nicely. Everyone was talking about him being maybe one of the best players in the world. Those conversations were being had. People were going, why is he not further up in the Ballon d'Or arguments, given his form at the start of the season? That was remember, and given his contributions. People were talking about all that kind of stuff, Right now, I think Guardiola is sort of giving this a go, because I think Bernardo, look, he was giving it a go for a while, but I think he's been easing De Bruyne back into the team. And now De Bruyne is back into the team. I think we're going to see less of it. I do think we are. I think the only reason we saw it start yesterday was because Bernardo had a knock, Stones wasn't available, and Kovacic was returning to fitness. I don't think he really trusted Oscar Bob out on the right, meaning Foden had to go there, which meant Alvarez back through the middle again. I don't like it either. I really don't like it either. But I do think Pep is more aware than he let us on. He subbed Alvarez off against Everton. He subbed him off yesterday as well. After that first half was just not good enough. And he said that as well. I think Guardiola's more aware of it, but I think he sees it as something that we sort of have to do every now and then, because he doesn't fully trust Núñez there. I would be tempted by Rico Lewis personally, but I think Pep sees Alvarez as worth the risk. You don't have to agree with it, but that's why I think he does it. I would love to see it ended though, because I don't like the next point. I don't like Phil Foden on the right now. Personally, if I was Guardiola, I'm not near as successful or brilliant or whatever, but I would have loved to see Oscar Bob on the right yesterday and Foden through the middle. I think Foden is better centrally by some way than Alvarez. Foden is the kind of guy that makes magic happen, and he wins you games. A hat-trick recently, of course. He's on fire right now. And I think Foden is actually the closest we've got to a 𝙤𝙬𝙞𝙩𝙬𝙚 type these days. He's learning to compose himself a little bit. He's learning to slow down his game, and Foden simply has to be on the ball in the middle. I don't think Alvarez has the smarts to his game. And I know Foden once didn't have the defensive capabilities, but these days he's so much better there. If you can trust Alvarez in a 4-4-2 defensively alongside Rodri, you can definitely trust Foden. And I think Foden... and we do play 4-4-2 when we're defending, by the way. Foden up alongside Haaland. No, Foden, sorry. De Bruyne up alongside Haaland when we're defending. Foden's easily our best option there, in my opinion, if Bernardo's not available. I think he is, because he's more natural there. He doesn't give the ball away. He's actually more of a goal threat at the moment than Alvarez playing centrally, and he's more creative. He has to play there. He has that natural drive. Stop with this experiment with Alvarez in the middle at the expense of Phil Foden. I would rather just have Oscar Bob or Alvarez on the right, actually. Whoever, just to do a job out there, and Phil do what he does in the middle, because we lose more through playing Alvarez in the middle, Foden on the right, than we would the other way around. Absolutely. The defence is open is the next thing I want to talk about. It's really, really open. It absolutely is. This comes down to many things, in my opinion. It comes down to mainly being a really open structure. Like, City are far too open right now. This sort of like back three we're playing with Akanji and often sometimes Walker pushing far up. It seems far too open. And I saw times yesterday where there was a gap of a good 20 yards between the defenders and midfielders. It's not always on the defenders. I think the midfielders of the opposition side are getting far too much time to simply look up and just make a pass almost unchallenged behind the defence. And because we're playing a high line, which is a tactical thing that Guardiola is choosing to do, playing such a high line, it's so hard to stop, isn't it? It's so hard to stop. And I think this is what we're seeing defensively. It's just easy to get behind us. I don't think defensively a lot of the players are playing that well. I don't think Diaz is fully at his best right now. Kyle Walker's form's up and down. And Kanji, a little bit ropey yesterday. Aki being largely great. But I do think when we haven't got Stones playing, the system sort of falls apart. And I'd like to be a little bit more pragmatic if possible, because Rodri cannot marshal that defence in the same way, that gap between the defenders and the midfielders in the same way that, say someone like Fernandinho could have all that energy. Rodri's brilliant, but he definitely needs the legs alongside him, like a Kovacic or someone. And I would much rather Rico Lewis play there and play, Rico Lewis deeper alongside Rodri if Kovacic is not available, Bernardo, and De Bruyne to just get a free rein, someone to control the midfield a little bit, because I think we miss it. We're too open, and we have to change that if we're going to win some trophies. The final thing I want to talk about was the Doku debate. Doku is so divisive online, and I don't understand it massively. I do a bit. I think we've just forgotten what wingers look like. We've been so conditioned to keep the ball, that we forget the wingers are high risk, high dribble players. I see people talking about people like Vinicius Jr. and stuff, but I think they forget for many years he did the most frustrating things in a Real Madrid shirt, and he gives the ball away even more than Doku does even now. Doku yesterday actually created a few big chances. He's beat his man a couple of times. He didn't give the ball away much in terms of his passing, and he worked reasonably hard defensively. I understand his crossing isn't always ideal, though he did put a couple of crosses in that no one attacked. But we've got to remember, Doku is being sort of forced to create things himself. Like, the ball barely went down the right to Foden. He got more touches than anyone, Doku, I think. And it was constantly spread out to him, whereas he had no one overlapping him. So he's not getting anyone overlapping him to create a sort of overload so he can cut back inside and beat people. He's trying to cross it to a reasonably empty box. I do think he keeps his head down a little bit too much, and I think he looks like a young lad who's sort of learning to play in a Man City way. Like, you can tell he looks a little bit frazzled at the moment. I've said this before. Like, he's a man who's probably been told to think about how he plays for the first time ever. He's always been told to play instinctively, but now he's been told to think about it. And I think this is where the issue is at right now. But it's fine. I don't think the debate is anywhere near as aggressive. If you reframe what he is, think how he is, reframe it. He's a 21-year-old. He's just joined the best team in the world from a French top-tier side. You know, he's absolutely work in progress, but that is absolutely fine. So he doesn't need to be anything more than that. He doesn't need to be terrible. He doesn't need to be slagged off meticulously. He doesn't. We need to be calm a little bit. But his output is still there, by the way. People take the chances, and he gets an assist yesterday. He's done his job. But I agree he needs more, but patience. Perspective, patience. The Alvarez experiment is befuddling and confusing, but it is what it is. Foden has to play in the middle. They're the 5 things that I took from this game, Blues. Do let me know down below what you made of it yesterday. I would implore everyone to calm down a little bit. We're in a good position still. We really are. 1 point if we win our game in hand. That's it. Thanks for watching this video. I appreciate you loads. Give the video a like. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. In a bit, come on, you Blues.